Kicking off for us today, we've got Shannon of Shannon Media. Ellen, do you want to say hello real quick and introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, everybody. Thanks so much for coming. And thank you to the Chamber for having us and to the ladies of State Farm. Thank you. Sure. I'm Shannon of Shannon Media. We've been in business about 15 years here. We started Chapel Hill Magazine was our first product. And we have Durham and Chatham magazines as well. We also own the Heart of NC Weddings magazine, which is an annual magazine. If anybody here is involved in getting married, it's a wonderful magazine and website. And we own events, which obviously I'll talk a little bit about. Figuring out how to do events this past year has been really fun. And we also have a pretty robust digital business where we help clients not only just with our audiences, but reaching digital audiences outside of our audience. And that's pretty much who I am. Thank you for having me, Rebecca.
Thank you, Ellen. Ellen's also the immediate past chair of the Chamber Board, and we're just so grateful for your leadership. Okay, next is Zoe is here with us with Damn Good Foods. Zoe, take a minute to introduce yourself, please.
Hi, good morning, or almost afternoon, morning, everyone. My name is Zoe Dehmer. I am one of the co-founders of Damn Good Food, which is a food business group. We have Acme in Carrboro that opened in 1998. I joined the team there about 6 years ago. And then Plum is our restaurant in Durham, downtown Durham, that opened last fall. We have a new brewery in Raleigh that's Louisiana, North Carolina food and really good beer in North Raleigh. That's called Heyday Brewing. And then Carrboro United is our local food hub that we launched in response to the pandemic last year. We do have a few other businesses that are, I can't tell you about just yet, but we are going to be launching later this year. Anyway, so we have a sort of community of food businesses, and this is so cool to be on a Zoom with this many women today. I'm really excited to be here. So thank you for pulling this together, you guys.
Thank you, Zoe. And then last but not least, we've got Donata White of Coffee Date Media here with us. Will you take a minute to introduce yourself?
Absolutely. Thank you, Rebecca. Thank you to everybody who's here today. It's good to see so many smiling faces. Thanks to our sponsors and to the Chamber for having me. Like Rebecca mentioned, I'm the CEO of Coffee Date Media. We are a content production and social media marketing agency. So we've taken the whole social media content pipeline and crushed it into one company. So everything from strategy to the actual content production, we do video, podcast production, photos, graphics, all of that good stuff. And then we can actually manage and optimize that on social media as well. So I work with the most amazing creative people in the world every day, which is a dream. I used to be a lawyer, so this is like a full 180 from what I used to be doing. And I'm just so happy that I get to do stuff like this as my job. So thanks for having me, and this is going to be really fun.
So good. Thank you for being here. Okay, so let's get started with our first question, and I'm going to start. I want Ellen to kick us off here on the conversation. So, Ellen, what innovations have you seen from the business community in the last 15 months, and what of those innovations are you expecting to see sticking around in the future?
Okay. Hi, everybody. Vanessa, I don't know if Vanessa or Jensen are doing my slides today, but I thought I would start off with some of the innovators that I think we can all learn from. And Zoe, I'm thinking that maybe I should have put the logo of Damn Good Food up here instead of Acme and Carrboro United. But I think probably most of us know that Acme very quickly put their e-commerce platform to good use and started To Go Food very, very quickly, and brought partners together. There was real partnership and community figuring out a different distribution model to help the restaurants and caterers in our community. And it really has been fabulous to watch this local food hub not only take care of the restaurants, but to help all of us who really wanted to support the community, and also have good food to eat during the pandemic. So they're a great example. Bud Matthews Services, they had already started listening to their customers, which is, customers really drive innovation, is what I have found. And by customers, like in our business, I think about readers as well as advertisers, because I need to listen to them, just as Bud Matthews did to their customers. They filled a great market need. So many people were renovating their houses. Most people think of Bud Matthews as a repair business in the past, but they have really expanded widely into the renovation business and did very well during the pandemic because of it. They also increased their digital presence greatly and made a huge investment to make these two changes. And it's very much paying off for them. And it was really great for the community to be able to have them as a resource to be contracting and have a good collection of subcontractors even. Carolina Performing Arts, I work really closely with them, and I am so impressed by what Janet Jackson and the entire team there did during the pandemic. They had virtual conversations with artists, they had virtual performances, they made it very, very inexpensive and easy for the entire community to get some arts in their life, which we all desperately needed. And I think you're going to find that a lot of their innovation, like Acme and Bud Matthews, are going to continue into the future. They have a pretty amazing lineup coming for the fall and into next spring. And a lot of those things are going to look a little bit different than they used to. And they've spent a lot of time looking around the world for ideas, and they've found some really great ones, which we are going to be treated to. And I also think hybrid models of digital and in person are going to be there for a lot of us to use. And that's pretty exciting too. Film Fest 919, anybody that had not been to the Film Fest before the pandemic, you were really missing out on something special. It's an event that happens here that brings, world famous people actually here, and they're really great at picking movies. I think most movies they have picked have won award after award, and we get to see them first here. So what did Film Fest 919 do? There's a drive-in movie theater now for anybody that doesn't know, which is pretty amazing up at Caraway Village. They have managed to figure out how to deliver their product digitally through drive-in at Silver Spot. Really and truly, I think Randy Emmerman has worked so hard to make this happen. It's absolutely an amazing example of innovation. Durham Tech is up here. I know Melissa Chappell's on the call, and I think Jackie's here. And I apologize if anybody else is here and I didn't see them. But boy, did they ever have to jump in head first because of the pandemic. And again, a lot of their innovations are going to continue. I mean, they had students that were in real trouble. They figured out how to feed students. They figured out how to deliver education to them online really, really quickly. I think too, what you're going to find is, again, I'm on their foundation board, so I got to see it up close, delivering scholarships, making sure people had what they needed, helping people a lot more than just education, but their back to work programs got people that lost jobs to get retrained really quickly and get back out in the workforce. JB Buxton's the new leader there, and there's a lot more great things to come. I put the chamber up here because who has not, I've been so impressed by what the chamber has done. Their leadership, while, they've been known for connecting us, but here they were really doing survival leadership for a lot of businesses here They totally let everybody in Zoom. I think if I ever had a Zoom question, I simply knew I could pick up the phone and call the chamber, and Vanessa would be able to help me. I think that they have done, they're going to be leading us even more so going into the future, how to do networking differently, how to come back together safely, all of the safety information. And they delivered on, and I would point out all of these people, they didn't change their missions. Their missions were pretty much the same. They just figured out innovations in distribution and operations, in marketing and selling and serving their customers. And I think, did I hit everybody? I guess I did hit everybody. So let's just run to the next slide. So I put together this. What does it really take to innovate? I think the most important thing is making sure that you have a lot of customer and non-customer relationships and conversations going on. Almost every innovation that I've ever made in my whole career has been as a result of what customers or employees have brought to me. I think thinking that one person can come up with all the ideas is really wrong-headed. I think you have to have agile and flexible leadership. You have to have talented and committed employees and freelancers, whatever that description is to you. You have to be able to do zero-based thinking. Like one of the questions I ask myself all the time, if I was going to compete with myself, what would I do? And then I figure out how to do it myself. I'd rather compete with myself than to leave that for somebody else to do. We are lifestyle, we're a lifestyle multimedia company. So that, and events. So how can I make sure that I follow through and serve everybody the best way that I can to deliver information? Getting customers and employees' involvement in innovations, talked a little bit about that already. Look inside and outside local area for ideas. One of the best ways that you can find ideas sometimes is going to industry conferences that aren't around here, or sharing ideas, like for us, sharing ideas with other city and regional magazine leaders has been very, very good for us. But we do a lot of that. Be prepared to make a financial investment. This is the part that I think is a stopper for a lot of people. But I think if you're going to be in business, you have to be willing to take a risk. And you also, in order to launch and innovate well, you have to use some capital to do it. And anyway, we could talk more about that in the breakout if you want to, but that's one of the mistakes that I see the most, a lot of people here make that mistake, is they enter a business very undercapitalized and not willing to take as much of a risk that would propel them to success. And I hate to say this, guys, but men are more willing to take risks usually than women. And I think we have to change our mindset as women, believe in ourselves a little bit more. Anyway, let's keep going. I don't want to hold up the show here. So these are some examples of how we had to innovate. We ran events. We had a beautiful event, 800 people that normally would enjoy food and drink fest at DPAC. It was gorgeous. We had the best restaurants there, terrific beverages and bands, and it was marvelous. And so we had to innovate. We obviously couldn't bring 800 people to DPAC. So what did we do? We set up shop and let everybody come and grab a fantastic dinner and beverages in the Johnson Lexus parking lot, basically. They were our headline sponsor. We also did this with Hendrick for our Women of Achievement. And we had video wine classes, we had video cooking classes, so that when you got all your food home. So this was one way of innovating, just thinking about how to deliver something differently that's still really good quality and make it fun. Okay, Vanessa, keep going, or Jensen. We launched a new company, Triangle Digital. So that is the name of our company. Some of you may know that, some of them you don't. We basically, before the pandemic started, before the pandemic started, we had done this. We had been doing digital for clients to our own audiences. We had been doing digital out to outside audiences for quite a while, but we never really went out and told our story about our digital products. So we started this. We're doing it in full force. And it's not different than what our mission always was, which was to help create content and to help our customers market themselves. Next slide, please. Within that, a couple of months before the pandemic, we had already started. We had bought a new, again, financial investment, a new platform that let us do digital contests and giveaways, and accompanying that with multimedia promotion to promote those contests. These are just two examples. Carolina Inn did a giveaway with us. We did a lot of social media and promoted them in the e-newsletters. And some lucky, wonderful person got to go to the Carolina Inn for a weekend. And then Duke Children's Hospital, a good customer of ours, did photo contest around incredible kids. And it's a year-long program, actually, where they do different photo contests on the Durham Magazine website. So these were two examples that we really amped up during the pandemic because people were looking for new solutions to market to customers. Next slide. And then we did the external digital audiences. So now we help customers because we really looked and saw a lot of our customers are small and mid-size. They don't have the money, they don't have the time, they don't have the buying power to be able to do this. I wouldn't say inexpensively, but affordably. The time element was as much as the money, to be honest with you. A lot of clients did things through agencies maybe that didn't understand their businesses. We do. And so we just looked and said, what else can we do for people? And we had a lot of people, everyone knows you have to do social media. I mean, obviously you've got to do it. And I'm sure Donata can talk more about that. But there was a lot of confusion around how to do Facebook and Instagram ads and make sure that you didn't spend too much money, but that you got a great response. And with all of the privacy rules changing, there's lots of changes now with Google and Facebook and Instagram, and our clients could not keep on top of it. There was a lot of confusion. So we were like, fine, we are going to start doing this. This was a huge investment for us, money-wise, people-wise. But we were lucky enough that we have several people that have great expertise in this. And it, again, still in our mission of helping people market, but through different methods. And you can see, these are some of our customers. We had to learn how to make great digital ads. That took a lot of education and bringing on some people, because it's not something that we would normally be able to do. Next slide. And so we used to have like 2 or 3 things on this digital product list, but now we have like 10 things on this digital product list. And I guarantee you it's going to keep growing, because as our customers need it, those will be the innovations that we will make. We also invested in a technology partner who is a Google Premier partner, which means that that's the top 1% of Google's premier partners. A lot of this is really complicated, and you have to have fantastic technology to do it. But again, invest. I think that's the key, is that this takes a lot of investment and a lot of education. And I think that's true for most innovations, but personally, that's what I think. And anyway, I think that is it from me. That's what we have done. And that's what I've seen other people do. That it's very impressive, but boy, a lot of work. There was no sleeping during the pandemic for us. Thanks.
We can certainly tell there was no sleeping for you and your staff. Thank you, Ellen. That was wonderful. Zoe, how would you like to add to this? And what innovations are you also seeing from the business community, and what are you seeing sticking in the future? Please chime in.
Yeah, I had a couple things, and Ellen's such a leader in our community and has really done so much in the last well, many years, but in this past year to sort of be a community builder, which is a huge part of what I see has changed over the last 15 months or so, that I think it is quite innovative how we've all begun to redefine what community is, what our business community is, and what competition is, what battles we're actually fighting. I think having this common enemy of COVID has allowed us to see what how much better we can be when we share what we're what we're working with, when we share what we're challenged by, and that if another Southern restaurant comes and opens down the street from Acme and Carrboro, that I shouldn't be threatened by that business. I should actually support them and promote them, because that means, if more people are coming to that business, someday they're going to come to ours. There's more people in town, et cetera. I've had more discussions with other business owners in the past year, I think, that were very, where people are really showing a great deal of vulnerability around what this is really like, how hard it is, how few hours of sleep you've gotten in the last year than I've gotten in my entire career before that. People really just feeling like it's okay now to call another business owner and not have to feel quite so protected around what's difficult about this, and to support each other in that. So kind of businesses supporting each other in those small ways, but also I see dovetailing where businesses are actually formally working together. Carrboro United is our example of that, of how we get businesses to financially and operationally work together. For those of you who don't know, Carrboro United is our food hub that we started on March, just after March 16th of last year, in response to everything shutting down at once. We created a food hub where restaurants and farmers and different businesses could retail to us their food. So family meals or that sort of thing, we would store them in a refrigerated truck, and then you kind of order through one online platform. And we have at this point up to 45 vendors in a hub day, and they'll all sell their food through us. And it's been really successful. But so I think that would be the first thing I would say that I have seen from innovation, is redefining what it means to be a business community, and how business owners can support each other, and not actually try and compete in maybe the same ways that you historically think of businesses competing. And then the other big thing for me that there's no way to avoid that. I think the standards for employers has really gone up in the last year. What a good employer you are, how well you pay people, and committing to providing a meaningful work environment for your employees, so that they can actually be happy with all the time that they're committing to work for you. That's something that, like, anyone who applies to work with us or works with us, I consider it to be a real honor every day that they want to show up to work. I treat all of our employees like they're volunteers, so that I know that if I was not paying them, I want them to have a lot of reasons to be there every day. So those are the two things that come to mind for me, but I'll certainly also piggybacking on a lot of what Ellen said, I totally agree with a lot of the techniques you mentioned as well.
Perfect, thanks. Donata, do you want to add in here about what you expect to be sticking around in the future?
I mean, Ellen and Zoe did such a great job covering it. I think the only thing I would say is that I think businesses, especially in our community, have been so creative about finding low or no contact, location independent ways to do business. And I think that flexibility is really going to be sticking around. I think people have not enjoyed the social distance, but they've enjoyed being able to be flexible in the way they do business. So I think that we'll see a lot more of those location independent or low or no contact business transaction methods sticking around as just a form of flexibility going forward.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, let's keep going then. So Nana, how about you leading us off on this next question about how do you think a customer or a consumer can be reached during this, specifically the transition period as we're in recovery now?
So I believe the easiest, best, most cost-effective way is going to be social media. I mean, I may be a little bit biased in saying that since that's what I do, but that is something that I think everyone on this call, every business owner in our community can do today that is going to get them in front of their consumer. It's free to do just organic. Obviously, there are paid options that Ellen and her team can help you with, but I think a lot of people we've seen social media usage skyrocket over the last 15 months. Just people being home, people not commuting, they've got more hours in the day to sit around and be on their technology. Social media usage has gone up by hours per day, particularly in younger populations, mid-20s and younger. So if that's where they are, that's where you've got to be to get in front of them. So I think that's the easiest and most, again, cost-effective way to reach the consumer right now. It's not as simple. Obviously, it's not as easy as posting a pretty picture. There are things that you can research or get help with in terms of optimizing your posts in whatever platforms you plan on using, researching where your particular audience member or consumer is hanging out. Not every demographic or every person with every interest is on every single platform. So what platforms are you going to focus on? How are you going to optimize your content so that it gets in front of the right people? What type of content are you creating that's actually going to catch their attention? Because there's so much, the volume is extreme, that you actually have to be able to create things that are going to capture and retain their attention long enough for you to get your message across. And that's what we specialize in, is that really super high quality content that we actually have our arts team members take care of the content piece, because something that's eye-catching and built to entertain or built to catch and hold attention is something that's really important right now, because along with that high social media use, there's a high number of content pieces that people are consuming per day. And then there's the optimization piece. You can't just post and hope that it gets to the right person. There are things that you can proactively do to make sure that whatever you're creating, whatever you're saying, is not going into the void. It's going directly to the person that you want to be able to see it. Particularly with our community, one thing that you can do is just always use a location-based tag on any of your content. That's something that most social media platforms offer. It's something that you can remember to do, since we're all local businesses, that you can assign your post a location in whatever, especially like Instagram, Facebook, something like that, where you're going to be able to show up with other content from that area, which makes it really fun to kind of your location specifying where you want your content to go, or where someone looking at our community is going to find it. So I think that's the easiest, fastest way to get started. There are many, many, many ways to reach your consumer right now. Between Ellen and Zoe and I think we probably have 2,000 ways that we can list right now. But in terms of something that you can hop off this call and do, I think social media is going to be my favorite recommendation for everybody.
Thank you, Donata. Ellen, what do you have to add to this?
So the great thing about this panel is it's not controversial. I've been on panels where I totally disagree with other panelists and you have to kind of like battle it out, but I agree with everything that's being said. I would just add that it's important to remember, I think one of the most common mistakes people make is that they continually market to the same people. Okay, so I would say you do need to have a customer retention and growth plan for sure, right? It's like you should be sending out an offer right now to get people back to your businesses right now. And you should use multimedia to do it. Because everybody uses different medias for different things. And so we're big proponents here of sending out messages in a lot of different ways, obviously, between the magazine, e-newsletters, all the digital ads, so on and so forth. I think that making sure you do customers and prospects. I think email, if you have an email database, that's like to me, like the world's easiest thing to use. Your social media, these are all people that obviously care about what you have, or they wouldn't have given you their information and joined you. So make sure you're talking to everybody on those platforms. But I would not forget branding. Like that's one of the other things I see. If you think about the people that are well known here in our local area, the companies that are well known here, the organizations, those people continue to do marketing. You would think like the Carolina Inn could just go to sleep and never do any marketing again because they're so well known, or the Chapel Hill Restaurant Group and all their, but no, those are the people that keep building their brand continually. I know Acme is very good at it. There's a lot of people on this call that are good at it, but I think you have to do both. You have to remember to do branding and lead generation. And I think if you think about during the pandemic, who was visible during that pandemic, those are the people that continue to brand and do lead generation at the same time. I think you can't just do one without the other.
That's great advice. Okay, let's keep going here in our conversation. And I'd like to ask Zoe to lead us on this next question, which is, what are your suggestions for a business who does want to take a leap and do something innovative?
Yeah, so number one, be prepared to feel alone, right? Maybe not lonely, but alone. I think anyone throughout history, you can see that people who did things that were innovative were often perceived to be crazy or alone, right, at first, until they proved their idea. But more importantly, I think that the only constant in business is change. So the only way that your business is going to remain relevant is if you maintain a really intense curiosity about what is changing, and how you must adapt to stay on pace with those changes. It's something we say all the time to our employees that I imagine applies to most industries, but certainly in the restaurant industry, is that if we're not getting better, we are definitely getting worse. If we're not doing something differently this year than we did last year, we are definitely backsliding. There's no like neutral zone in this industry. Stagnation is not a good thing. So being open to your best ideas from last year no longer being relevant, and having to innovate them and pivot all the time. It's exhausting, but it really is the only way. Operationally speaking, I wish in every industry, there's so many specifics about operations. So I won't go into like what it takes to, build a new restaurant that's innovative. But I will say that, it's maybe not so profound, but one of the most important things that I've found is just having a total, unrelenting persistence and unwillingness to give up, though adaptation is really necessary throughout the process. I swear that 95% of my own success, if that's what you want to call it, has just been an unwillingness to be the victim of any situation that I find myself in, and that goes for small personal interactions that are difficult to deal with, to something I don't want to do, to the pandemic, something as big and all encompassing as a pandemic, that a refusal to be victimized by that situation. There's always a way to pivot. There's always a way that you can step around a situation or break through it, and it just requires, letting your ego take the back seat, I think. Carrboro United grew out of necessity. We had no plans to open a food hub ever until that week of March 16th. And what we knew immediately, what we were very focused on, was the fact that there was no way to claw through the brick wall that was in front of us, that we knew we had to get around it. The pipelines that were feeding people were shut off, and that wasn't something that we could solve. It was too big of an issue for us to solve from where we stood. So we had to find a new way, a new path around it. So we thought, like, okay, what do we know how to do? We know how to cook. We know how to reach people through our newsletter, through social media. We know how to set up events. And we know how to work as a team to produce something outstanding, because we do it all the time. And so it was about listening at that point. And like I say, being really intensely curious about what needs to change. So what resources do we have? This is something we teach our staff all the time. If a customer asks for something and you can't do it for them, you tell them what you can do. You don't tell them what you can't do. So what resources do we have? How can we reach out about it? And who are the people that would want to help? That first day I made a dozen phone calls to vendors and other restaurants, and it was like, hey, we've got this idea. I'm going to do it. Like, do you want to join us? It's going to start on Saturday. And this is what you need to do. So we worked with our sales system. We worked with our newsletter. We worked with US Foods, who's been an outstanding partner to a lot of companies around here during the last 15 months and really been very generous. Other vendors, that sort of thing. So, we didn't do it with virtue in mind, even though that is some of the narrative that has sort of grown out of it. We did it because a huge part of all of our business is being committed to never being stuck, never being the victim of the situation that we're in, whatever that may be.
Zoe, I'm so inspired right now. That was great. Thank you. Donata, Ellen, would y'all like to chime in and add anything to this question? To repeat it again, the question is, what are your suggestions for a business who does want to take a leap and do something innovative?
Donata, feel free to go first.
After that, I don't know. Zoe, that was such an amazing answer. I'm with Rebecca on this. I want to run through a wall right now. I'm so inspired by your answer. I think I would just say that there's a few sort of attitude shifts that I think would benefit all of us to make. Number one is not thinking of other local businesses as competition, but rather partners. We're seeing a lot of success with our clients doing cross-promotional efforts with other local businesses. It's a great way to support your own community. It's a great way to get in front of their audience. It's also a great way to introduce your audience to some other really cool local businesses. So cross-promotional efforts, thinking of other businesses as your partners, whether they're formal partners or informal partners. We're all a team. We're all in this together. We're not competing with one another. Even if you do the exact same thing, our community is lucky in that there are so many amazing people here that there's enough to go around. You're really never gonna be in a situation where I think there's enough to go around in this community for sure. The other thing that I would say is we're seeing a lot more of a focus on the consumer end on different things. People are not necessarily as concerned about what they used to be concerned about. And if we can shift the messaging that you're putting out there to speak to what your business can offer in terms of things that they have been focused on, like family, like quality time, like supporting the local community, how can we express to your audience members or to your consumer how your business fits in with what they care about right now? And that's, again, you're gonna hear me sound like a broken record. Social media is a great way to sort of start expressing this message, whether I know other ways of expressing those messages can be a little bit slower than social. You can make a post on that right now if you wanted. And then the final thing, I have my notes written down because I didn't want to forget anything important. Besides digging into your community and making sure that your message is consistent with what the consumer cares about, there's this aspect also that we're seeing of people wanting to see you peel back the curtain a little bit and keep your business processes and the people behind them not a secret anymore. People are really responding well to content in particular that shows what goes on behind the scenes, shows what's going on in your business, meeting the people who they're going to be interacting with when they become a customer or when they're in a transaction with you, showing how the business works, what the cogs and the wheels look like, as you know, without revealing any sort of proprietary information, of course, but showing how the business works. They really want to know who they're getting involved with. People have realized that their spending power means something and they want to be wise about who they spend it with. So taking any opportunity you can or feel comfortable with to peel back the curtain, show what's going on behind the scenes, highlight the people who work with you so that it brings the customer or the audience member closer to your business in a more connected, personal way rather than just a transactional way.
Okay, gosh, you guys all said so many great things. I would say the one topic we haven't talked about, and it's the word innovative, I think applies here, is how can we all be more innovative when it comes to diversity? And I think we have really challenged ourselves during this time to think about that as a company editorially, to think about it through all of the products that we do need to better reflect the community, and to also think about our own workforces, right? This has been something we've been working on really hard the last couple of years, and I wish we had worked harder on it sooner. But boy, it is really front and center for us, and I would challenge everybody to think innovatively about how you can go about doing some of these things. It's not necessarily easy to do, but it is incredibly important that we do it and that we don't forget the moment that we're in. Like, this is the time that we should be focusing on it. So I'm just going to say that. In terms of marketing, which obviously I kind of made my thing about marketing because Zoe had such a great operational story. I thought, I can't really add anything to that. But I would say marketing, look at how to reach more people that look like your own customers, because there are great ways in technology to be able to do that. And that is one of the best predictors of whether or not they will become customers of yours, is if they look like other customers. And what I mean by that is maybe demographically and geography, some mix of information about them that make them look like the people that now do business with you. Because that's like the easiest group of people for you to bring on to your present customers. And I just am seeing Pam Herndon's thing, in language spoken. Yes, I agree with that, Pam. So I guess I would just leave it there, is that lookalike customers can be found across many, many of these media platforms that we're talking about.
Wonderful, wonderful point to add there, Ellen. Thank you for taking the time to share it. Okay, we're exactly on time. Look at us go. I've got one more lightning round question, and then we're going to head to breakout rooms with each of our panelists leading us in small group discussions after that. So for the lightning round discussion, Ellen, how about you kick us off with it? How do you measure success, however you define it?
Okay. The first thing I would say is I measure the success in a lot of different ways, but I always measure them against myself, right? Like, I know I have so many metrics that we have been keeping for many, many years across kind of all of our areas. And I'm constantly trying to figure out how to get those metrics better. So have historical metrics is what I'm saying to you. I also measure those metrics against the market, right? I go out and I say, you know, for other city and regional magazine, how are they doing against these metrics and how versus how am I doing? In terms of what metrics matter, financial, obviously that's like of course, we all have to figure out how to make money and make sure that our employees are making money. And employee retention, really important to me because it's, I don't know, because of all the reasons we know, keeping our employees happy and trained and provided for. I feel really strongly about that one. I think the quality metric really matters for us. We keep quality metrics, making sure we're keeping our quality up. Audience engagement is a big one for us, is we measure every which way what content's important to people, how many people are coming to our website, what pages are they interested in, what are they clicking on in our e-newsletters, what more do they want? And then, of course, customer metrics, right? Are people renewing their ad contracts? Are they interested in multimedia or just, you know, one particular media? If we've lost people, why on earth are we losing them? If we've never gotten people, why are we not getting them? And really taking a look at the metrics against that. Again, you can only do this if you really commit to keeping historical records really tightly. So that's my 2 cents.
Love, all super helpful to be thinking about. Zoe, what about you? How do you define success, measure success?
Yeah, so like Ellen, there's lots of measures, but I'll focus on one main one that is really close to my heart, at least, is I know that our guests are never going to receive better hospitality from one of our staff members, like at the table, than I give them internally, than we give each other internally as a business. You know, emotional labor is what hospitality is all about, and it's very taxing to an individual. So I do everything in my power to keep our teams happy at work, like Ellen said. If they're happy, I know that they're going to have a much better opportunity to provide sincere, you know, meaningful hospitality to our guests. And if that interaction is occurring, I know that we're succeeding. I know that they're going to come back and spend more money with us. So I measure that through, you know, happiness of our employees, through being an attentive and listener and observer every day in the businesses. But more formally, I measure it through biannually. We do stay interviews with every single employee. So across the businesses later this year, it'll be probably almost 200 people. We sit down with every one of them twice a year for 30 minutes, an hour, whatever it takes. And we talk with them about it's sort of the inverse of a performance review. We do those twice a year as well. But on the opposite quarters of the year, I sit with them and ask them how we're doing as an employers, basically. And if they are happy, what ideas they have to innovate the business. And, you know, if we're keeping our promise to them as an employer, that's something that matters to them. So bottom line, are they happy or not? Are they going to stay with us or not? And we ask those questions very directly. How long do you imagine staying here? And it's been profoundly impactful for us the last few years since I started doing it. I get all sorts of great ideas. When you just ask people what they think should, you know, make the business better, they have ideas. So you just have to listen to them. But yeah, keeping people happy, I think it all trickles down from there. Everything you need to keep the cash flow going for the business trickles down from happy people.
Yeah, it does. It does. And we're in a time where it's changing on what makes people happy at the same time. So thank you. Donata, how about you? How do you measure success?
So I actually struggled with answering or coming up with a response to this question because I wanted to make sure it was helpful for all of the participants on the call. And I know that each one of us has so many different goals, or we're working on different projects and we're in different businesses. And I think that the one question I always ask myself is, am I getting what I want? And that's not to be selfish, but I think the way I measure success is, am I on track or am I progressing toward what it is I said the goal was, and keeping my focus on the goal rather than on the strategy, because the strategy can be changed. I mean, the goal can be changed too, but if it's what you want and the strategy is not working, there's always a way to tweak the strategy or change what you're doing to keep moving in the right direction. And you can measure how close you are to what it is you want the result to be, and whether or not you're moving in that direction at any given time, and then decide whether your strategy is the right one. And I think that it's important to keep our eye on the prize and go for what it is the goal is, whatever you think your goal is, whether it's happy employees, and you can have multiple, whether it's happy employees, whether it's increased, increased revenue for your business, or more followers on social media, whatever it is that you're trying to get. Are you getting it? Are you progressing? Are you moving in that direction? And if not, what is it that you're doing or not doing every day that is preventing you from moving in that direction? Because the strategy can always be changed. You can always get more input or more help or more support or more knowledge or information, or you can make an investment that can help move you toward what it is that you want. But to me, that's the question I always ask myself is, am I getting what I want? And if not, why not?
Perfect. Thank you. No, it's so good. It's so good. I appreciate our three panelists today. Thank you all so much for putting in the time and effort and thinking about these questions to share with us. We have shared a handout in the chat of this meeting that is a collaborative of what each Ellen, Zoe, and Donata feel like we should be thinking about in our businesses at the moment. So take a look and make sure you can download that. If you have any trouble with the download, then I will be sending it in an attachment email after this event. So no worries there. Also, we're going to head to breakout rooms now. So it's 12:30, a little bit before 12:30. We're right on time. We're planned to end at 1 o'clock. So we're going to spend 30 minutes in our small group discussions at this point. And so Ellen, Zoe, and Donata are each going to lead our own breakout rooms. The instructions for these breakout rooms are really general, just to continue this conversation. It can be question and answer, but it's not anything formal. So just if there's one of the speakers you'd love to talk with more or have a specific question for, feel free to join their group. Vanessa, are you able to help send us to those breakout rooms now?
I'm going to open all rooms right now, and then you'll be able to choose a breakout room. Our speakers obviously can't choose which one. I placed you in a breakout room, but you should see that on your screen in 1 second. If you need help, please let me know, and I will help place you in a room, but you're free to go.
Have just a couple announcements and then we'll close out. So you should have gotten a gift card for your lunch today with your registration for today's event. It's a $15 gift card to either Neil's Deli, Mama Dips, or Mediterranean Deli. And if you haven't gotten yours, especially if you registered for the event this week, then they're coming in the mail. But feel free to reach out to Vanessa if you don't get it. We want to make sure that everyone gets to enjoy their local treat here in Chapel Hill, and we encourage you to go out and have lunch locally. Next week, we've got critical issues for the Chamber coming up. So mark your calendar for next Thursday morning. We'll be hosting the Chamber's Critical Issues Forum based around the local economy, focusing on towns and downtowns. So it's all about what's happening here local, and it's going to be a super important conversation to be a part of. Coming up in July 8th, we have our Business Excellence Awards, and we'll be launching those. So pay attention and participate as you're able to the Chamber's Business Excellence Awards for this year. Mark your calendar to join us on that for July 8th. And then finally, we're going to have our next women's social. So we'll be on Tuesday, July 27th. So more details to come. We're really not sure what we really aren't sure what the details are for this event, except that it's going to happen on July 27th. So bear with us as we figure it out, and please save the date for us. All right, y'all are welcome to hang out and chat or talk as we close out, but it's 1 o'clock on the dot, and that concludes our program today.